Tomb Raider 4, 5, and 6 remastered on Steam Deck thanks to Aspyr for providing a code of the game. So the game is already verified. This is not anything particularly GPU and CPU demanding, but it has everything it needs to be verified, which is good to see. This is basically Tomb Raider The Last Revelation, Tomb Raider Chronicles, and Tomb Raider The Angel of Darkness, but remastered with quality of life improvements and graphics, and you can toggle on or off the old and new graphics. So this is basically what they did with Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3. And also, since this game ran so well, I'm going to go into properties, make sure that game resolution is kept at 1920 by 1200, and this is checked, set resolution for internal and external display, so we can render it at a higher resolution and use the extra pixels as anti-aliasing, basically. And as soon as you launch the game, you'll see Tomb Raider The Last Revelation, then if you go to the right, Tomb Raider Chronicles, and all the way to the right, Tomb Raider The Angel of Darkness. So let's go to the first game from this list, The Last Revelation. If you go to options, there's sensitivity, dead zone, quick saves, ammo counter, you can turn that on or off. When it comes to graphics, there's an option for retro FPS. I'm guessing this is 30 FPS. Let's ignore that. Pick up highlight, you can also hide it. You can also go for the control types to be tank, modern. So modern controller is probably what I recommend for most people. I'm going to use that. When it comes to Tomb Raider Chronicles, we have similar options to the previous game. As you can see, the graphic settings is also the same, retro FPS, and pick up highlight, on or off. When it comes to the Angel of Darkness, actually this one doesn't have any graphical options. If I go into the options here, there is none of it. So I'm guessing it just has one setting, and that's basically it, because the other ones were to lock the frame rate to 30. So I don't think it's a huge deal, but this game in the original PC version has lots of options. I've seen it before. I'm happy that they simplified it. Alright, so welcome to Tomb Raider 4. As you can see, this is the new graphics with the lighting, and if you press the pause button, you get the old graphics. So if you enabled retro FPS in the graphics menu, the old graphics will be at 30 FPS. Also, the game seems to be locked to 60 or to the refresh rate of your screen, so probably if you have the OLED, it will be 90 FPS very easily. So when it comes to resources, it uses basically nothing, and if you're in the older school mode, it uses even less, so this is one of those infinite battery life games.
Good men have died for the information contained.
So again, if you have the OLED, you can probably get 90s. We're going to be checking that out in a moment.
For this we must respect.
But again, pause the start button is basically old versus new graphics. The new graphics though don't use many resources like at all, so I think the biggest difference apart from the lighting is the modern controls. Instead of using tank controls, you can use the modern ones, but those places that cast extra shadows, actual shadows actually, I think it looks pretty good. Now in the smaller screen, again, I have an OLED Steam Deck. The game seems to just use VSync for the whether you like it or not, basically. Since we have 90 Hz on the OLED, it goes up to 90. You can lock it to 60 if you want more battery life, but it uses very little resources, even with the super sampling to 1200p. So you could even hook it up to a 4K monitor if you wanted to. There are no jaggies, even with the new graphics and the old ones. Again, I can jump from one to the other. When it comes to battery life with this, over 6 hours easily. If you're using the old graphics, even more battery. So, and we are not even on native resolution. We're above native resolution, which again, it's an older game, which makes sense. But how many games, sometimes when they remaster them, destroy the performance? Well, this is not one of them. This is running fantastically well, as it should. And you can jump between old and new graphics. If you use the old graphics, you'll get a way higher battery life, over 7 hours. So 6 hours with the old graphics, 6 hours with the new graphics, 7 hours with the old graphics at 90 Hz. But you can also get more battery by just playing at 60 FPS. But not even the fan is spinning, so the deck is basically not even caring what's going on the screen, which is pretty funny. But it's still the same old game, obviously. It looks pretty different with the new lighting, though. I like the new shadows and all that, but the water looks a bit weird.
This is merely an appetizer for the
But again, we're talking about art direction.
forward.
But yeah, it's a little bit too bright to considering it's indoors. I'm guessing it's more realistic. Yeah, the water looks way better in the original, I think, when it comes to art. When it comes to tech, it's obviously better on the new one. But more realistic isn't always better. I don't know. But you can play in whichever mode that you want. You're not forced to play with the new graphics. I do like the new controls though. The modern controls feel fantastic. Kill him! So yeah, nothing to say about this one. It runs completely fine, obviously. Battery life is very long. And I do like the extra shadows they added and the improved models and all that. You can clearly notice that lots of effort went to change the graphics for the models and the textures as well. Everything is completely different when it comes to visuals. Even the trees. I mean, if you look at the trees behind, they were like a flat texture. Now they're actual 3D models. So that's a good amount of changes. And the fact that you can swap between them in real time, I really like that. Although the water goes a little bit too fast in the old graphics, if you're at over 30 FPS, I'm guessing. Tomb Raider 5. So again, this one, if you press the start button, you get the old graphics, and if you put the FPS option in the menu as retro FPS, you'll be in the older graphics at 30 FPS. And you can swap between the old and new graphics. Yeah, there is, as you can see, those extra shadows and different lighting and better textures as well. But I'm happy when they do those things, quality of life improvements plus graphical improvements, keeping basically the old game in the background. And with the modern controls, I'm way better at the game than I should be, which isn't saying much. To the edge, press forward and jump. Yep. And on this one, we're on the same thing as the previous one. It seems to be locked to the refresher of your monitor, and the older one, if you don't have the retro FPS enabled, you'll basically have 60 frames, even in the old graphics, which is good. When it comes to the smaller screen, we're once again getting the refresher of the screen being matched with the frame rate, so VSync on. The game seems to be forcing it, because when I was connected to my capture card, 60 Hz, the game just stayed at 60 Hz even if I disable the frame limit. Especially, again, the 3D models. You can clearly, I think, you should be able to notice the difference, right? I'm not crazy. But again, old graphics uses even less resources.
And now for the big jump. Walk to
The big jump.
then tap back once. Now press forward and jump together.
Yeah, those camera changes kill me sometimes.
Into the ledge.
With the new controls, actually. Sometimes sound controls might be superior. Let's see, that texture. I mean, yeah. The changes in lighting look fantastic.
To perform a sideways somersault, press left.
The somersault. Yeah, I don't know how to do it with the modern controls, actually. I think it works fantastic, looks great. And I think it's a worthy update. And for the Steam Deck, again, if you're playing at native resolution, the fans don't even turn on. Finally, Tomb Raider, The Angel of Darkness. So this one is the most modern one of the bunch. And you'll see the smallest graphical difference on this one. So if you hit, again, the pause button, the start button, you go to the old graphics. And the biggest difference, I would say, are those textures. Especially the textures, I would say, is the biggest one, and 3D models. Yeah, the options menu in the original had way too many options, but that's okay. For a game of the time, I think it was pretty advanced when it came to that. But this one is mostly, again, textures, 3D models, and quality of life improvements for the controls, which is welcome. It's very hard to get into the original Tomb Raider games with the tank controls for most people who are not used to that nowadays, I would say. And it's still 60s, but I'm going to show you higher frame rates without the capture card. But you can see there the differences. Mostly in this one, materials, a little bit of the lighting, and 3D models. So let me show you how it looks in the smaller screen. And one thing that I did notice, at least in Angel of Darkness, is that it doesn't run above 60 FPS. You cannot go higher than that. Old or new graphics, doesn't matter. The game will just not run at anything above 60, so my advice for this one is that you go into frame limit and put it at 60 Hz. So again, Angel of Darkness is the one that received the least improvements, obviously, because it was a full generation ahead of the previous ones. So let's jump, there we go. But again, it's locked to 6 FPS. The other ones were not doing that. And in the old graphics, it really looks, again, I think there's no reason to use the old graphics on this one. Because it's very similar to the new graphics, but with better models, textures, and all that. I mean, if I press it very quickly, you can see. Textures are way higher resolution, and it still fits the aesthetic, so... Again, I love changing between the old and new graphics. But what do I think about this collection of Tomb Raider 4, 5, and 6? I think it's a great collection when it comes to the improvements. On 4, sometimes I think the art is kind of lost with the new graphics, especially when it comes to lighting indoors. Then when it comes to 5 and 6, 5 I think it got a big improvement when it came to graphics. The art style seems to be kept intact. You can also play 4 and 5 at 90 FPS if you have a Steam Deck OLED as an example. You can do super sampling. Battery life is super high, obviously. When it comes to Angel of Darkness, we're locked to 60, which is a bummer, considering we could run it above 60 very easily. I mean, let's be honest here. So yeah. So again, when it comes to Angel of Darkness, I think it's the one that got the least graphical improvements. Obviously, it's a much newer game. So I wouldn't even use the older graphics on this one. Just because the better models and textures, I think, are a nice touch. I don't think they should have redone the entire thing. You can also notice that you can change between old and new graphics even in the menus. So the UI was also redone, and you can swap in and out of it whenever you want. So I think those are neat small details that you can see that there are lots of effort into this one. For it to look original, you can even put the older frame rate, which is 30. And the new UI and graphics I think are fantastic. Obviously, again, Angel of Darkness is the one that has the least amount of improvements, but you can actually notice it. So again, the main downside to Angel of Darkness is that it doesn't allow you to go above 60. I don't think it's a big loss, but something to keep in mind. The other ones, you can run them at 90 if you want to. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys!